Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 572. My name is Eric Nelson. With me today, I have my regular co-host, Matt Lungeth. Today's Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. Matt, how are you doing today?
Eric, I am well rested after a nice long holiday weekend here in the U.S. How are you, sir? How are things out on the West Coast? And what is the color of the bay?
I am doing fantastic. I also did enjoy the holiday weekend. It was nice to get out and relax a little bit, and I am doing well. The color of the bay is a nice turquoise green. It is a beautiful sunny day here, 72 degrees, not too hot, not too cold. We're enjoying the end of the summer into September. Can't believe it is already into September, but it's a beautiful day here. I'll throw it out to Corey Romero. Corey, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Eric. Yeah, doing fantastic. Utah weather's been great. Had a nice long weekend. Spent a lot of time with the family, and things are going well.
Good. Well, we're kind of low key today because we are going to be doing a kind of open topic today. We have a couple topics to talk about today. One is Kit Colbert. Kit Colbert is our new CTO, and I can't tell you how excited I am about that because I've known Kit since I've worked at VMware, since he was on the vSphere team, and I can't think of a better person to be the leader and mouthpiece of VMware's technology. He's just a great guy. So Matt and Corey will talk a little bit about that. And then I also have a list of the top 20 sessions that we've been talking to bloggers about. And so thought we could run down the top 20 sessions and what their value props are going to be. And I think we're going to have some of them people come in the next 2 or 3 weeks and talk about those sessions, but we can do an overview of those sessions, ones that you should catch, because today you can schedule. So Schedule Builder is now open.
Schedule Builder's open.
I've been told it's not actually Schedule Builder. It's just basically go into Content Catalog, and on the right-hand side, there's a button that you can just say schedule, and it just schedules it now. So we should probably just say the schedule button has gone live. I don't think that sounds as exciting as Schedule Builder, but you can now come in and schedule the sessions.
It's always going to be Schedule Builder in my heart.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm building my schedule, even though there's a button.
Right. Absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit about a Kit and what that means, and we'll get to talk a little bit about the old shows that he's done and his kind of career arc himself. He's not with us today. As you can imagine, he's pretty busy, and we did not book him. In fact, we only heard about this announcement, I think, 2 days ago before it went live. So I didn't have in fact, I think it was yesterday. I don't think I heard it yesterday, first time.
Corporate comms went out Tuesday the 7th. I have the email at 12:45 Eastern, so not even just over a day here, just 24 hours post announcements as we're recording this.
Right, exactly. So no pre-scheduled announcement even internally. Sometimes we get those from corporate comms, but not this time, which I'm pretty excited about. So we can talk about that before we just start talking about Kit and all the great sessions we're going to have at VMworld. Let's pop over to Corey. So Corey, any vExpert announcements before we get started?
Yeah, so a couple things. The first thing is we've got voting for the top 10 blog articles that went out on VMworld sessions. So if you go to blogs.vmware.com/vExpert, you can find that there. We've got over 500 votes right now, so we're going to announce that this Friday, which is going to be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. The second thing is we're having our vExpert party in both the U.S. And for both the U.S. and the Europe VMworlds. And so what we're doing is we're doing some vExpert awards. And this week, I'll have the email going out to the vExperts. Just fill out the data that we got in there. Everything is for you. So if it says your blog channel or your blog URL, just put your blog in there. And if you don't have one, just skip it. So we've got some really cool award categories that we're going to be voting for. A couple of these I've left out just because it'll give things away. So we're going to do a favorite blog, favorite non-English blog, favorite YouTube channel, favorite community podcast, and hoping this one wins. So Eric, you better put yourself in there. Most helpful in Slack, favorite community tool, which is a tool that's been put out in the space. That's a non-paid tool, so it's a community tool. Favorite vExpert, and then we're going to do favorite blog article of 2020 and 2021, favorite vExpert Pro, and that's all I'm going to say right now. We're also going to have about 150 gifts to give out to vExperts just randomly. For the awards themselves, we have a total of 115 awards going out for these categories that I just mentioned. Each category has 5 awards. So we're going to do the top 5 of each category, and we'll announce all of those awards and award winners during the vExpert party. So we're going to do a half and half for both. So really looking forward to this. We haven't done vExpert awards in a while, so I'm really excited about this. I put a ton of work into it, so I think it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm trying to remember the last time we did vExpert Awards. I think Alex Mayer was still with John Troyer running the vExpert program, which must be like 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it was 7 or 8 years ago. It's been a while.
Well, that's neat. And I know that Brand Via is building us a vExpert store, which then will allow you to go in and use the online, award that you got to select, your prize, and then it auto ships to you, no cost to you, so that you're not Corey Romero having to sit around and box up 120 prizes and send them around globally, right? So I think this is going to actually work this year.
Yeah, I've done that in the past, and half the stuff gets returned because mismatched and customs and everything else. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Brand Via. They do this. This is their job. And they do it well. So we're gonna let them take care of this.
I would say that the likelihood of getting your prize within this year is higher, right? Like I know in previous years, it's sometimes taken us almost 8 months to get things finally delivered to people by the time you have bad addresses and things like that just don't work. Yeah. But with Brand Via, that should be kind of pretty quick, right? Like you go in there, get your stuff. And so it's not like getting a Raspberry Pi, but it is like getting something. And I know that we have additional budget that we're looking at beyond the rewards. So if you do come to the party, maybe we'll be able to get you something also. So if you're giving away 150 prizes or whatever the number is, something, which you're not going to say because you don't want to announce everything, but that means if there's 2,000 plus vExperts, a little less than 5% of vExperts could win. Correct? Is that right?
Correct.
Right. There you go. All right. We got that. So that's exciting. And we are now into September. So what are we? We're less than 30 days away from VMworld. It's crazy. Like it doesn't seem, so it seems like it's just going to sneak up on us and go. But I would say that now is the time to go register, go get your schedules booked, your sessions booked, which is why we'll talk a little bit about sessions today and some of the neat ones that we're promoting. And Corey, I even have the list of all the the blogs that we've got, I think 60 blogs covering different sessions. So
set the calendar a time aside now, right? That's what I've been telling my customers. Block off your calendar for those 1 or 2 days before it gets out there, and we're 4 weeks away. Calendars, in the most part, hopefully aren't booked out that full yet, and set the time aside to come in and hear these fabulous presentations and figure out where we're going with all the different BUs directions and whatnot. But it's always a fabulous event.
It always is. And just to give an example of some of the sessions that we're promoting, I'm going to see if I can share, and you guys get to listen to this audio, but you probably, if you're not watching us on vBarbecue, you won't actually get to see it. But I'm going to share one of the snippet.
While we're waiting for that, I'll just say real quick, Eric, the prizes you brought up, you said it's a little bit less than 5%. Those are the actual awards. The total prizes and awards combined were just under 300.
Nice. 300 prizes.
Yeah.
I am attempting to pull in. This is very difficult. Select window. Okay. I'm not going to be able to do this.
Corey, while we're waiting for Eric, do you have a particular session that you happen to be interested in, or something that as you're seeing some of these submissions come across for a favorite session that has really piqued your interest as of yet?
Nothing is my number one yet. I've got to go in and take a peek and start building my schedule. So nothing yet. What about yours, Matt?
Anything within the EUC track. I don't know if Brian Madden's presenting this year. I need to go in and actually look for myself to see if he has anything out there. But the EUC keynote that Sean Bass usually does every year is a great one that I always try to go in and set aside the time to see where the EUC BU is headed. We've talked so much about Anywhere Workspace within the past year, but just to see what's coming around to the corner and everything else that's going to be lined up and where the BU is headed, as a direction in general.
Nice.
I'm going to get it.
I've got to see if, where is it here? Where's my list? Michael Roy, I don't know if he has anything coming up or not. I don't know if we can even talk. You can't even talk about what he's got coming up, announcement wise. But I'm going to see if he's got a session.
Brian does have multiple sessions that are out there now that I'm looking through it. So if you're searching for just at the general session track for speakers, I see 3 sessions for those EUC fans that are out there. He's doing a panel with Carl Webster, who we've had on the podcast previously, with Carl's analysis of what he did with all of the blog series, with taking his lab up from Horizon 7 up to Horizon 8. So that'll be a session between Carl and Brian. And it looks like there's a community roundtable with some great guests. I mean, some real distinguished EUC technologists are out there. Ron Oglesby, Brian, Martin Cause, and Joris Andresen on just what the future of the VDI admin is going to be. And then Brian has an individual session about virtual desktop migration and how an admin's moving over to Horizon, from maybe some legacy platforms or whatnot. So Brian, if you've ever seen any of his talks, everything from the Bri Forum forward, always a great presenter, highly entertaining. And I can remember from the last VMworld 2018, I believe, his was one of the most highest attended sessions. With I think it was definitely within the top 5, if not top 3. So great to see out there.
Nice. I'm ready to go. So I'm going to share one of the videos that we put together that we're promoting. We're promoting 20 different videos like this, which gives you kind of a sneak peek of what people are going to be covering. So.
Hi, I'm Eric Shanks, and I'm a senior technical marketing architect at VMware, focusing on VMware Cloud on AWS and modern apps.
Hey, and I'm Timmy Carr. I'm a product manager for Tanzu Kubernetes Grid at VMware. This year, Eric and I will be hosting an informal roundtable for folks who have questions about getting started with Kubernetes.
Tim, I kind of remember being pretty blown away by how much I learned during my first VMworld, and I'm hoping that you and I can provide some of the same great learning experiences for this year's attendees.
Yeah, it should be a great session. So here's what we're going to do. We'll start by covering some of the Kubernetes basics and show how Tanzu Kubernetes Grid helps customers get their first clusters up and running. After that, we'll let the audience drive the discussion.
This sounds great, Tim. I'm excited to get to present with you and get live questions from our customers. If you'd like to join this discussion, check out session app 2436 in the content catalog.
Yeah, we can't wait to see you at VMworld 2021. Remember, it's October 5th through the 7th.
We'll see you there.
All right, here we go. So that's one of the videos that we're promoting, and then we have blog articles on that session. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and we can talk a little bit about that. Yeah, we have, I think, 20 different sessions like that. We'll play a few more of these kind of a highlight videos that we got through the rest of the podcast, just so you can hear the speakers talk a little bit about their session and what their value prop is for those sessions. So looking forward to that. And for the rest of this month, we'll be running that in social media. If you want to give a retweet to some of these, you'll see the session speaker, you'll see bullet points of what they're highlighting in their session, and you'll see that going out with links to their session. So we'll be promoting those.
Eric Shanks, obviously a friend of the podcast. He was back on episode 540 and 499.5, where we had him talking about Kubernetes and the Kube Academy Pro. So if Kubernetes are your interest, you might want to go back and listen to those 2 episodes. And of course, we look forward to his VMware presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's get on to the topic today, right? Which is, first off, we'll just cover Kit Colbert, right? Like, Matt, I got to say that I look at, Raghu stepping into the CEO role, and I look at some of the shifts he's made inside of the company, and I'm actually really excited about what he's doing, right? He's refocusing us on 3 core components of the business, which I really like. So we've had a lot of sprawl as we've increased products, and we do acquisitions, and we bring acquisitions in, and then next thing you know, you have marketing and technical groups and everything. And I look at what Raghu's done. He's we haven't laid anybody off or done any kind of major reorg, but he has refocused teams and brought teams together and changed the management structure so that a lot of natural synergy, like for instance, data center, right? There's just now a whole group that's focused on cloud and data center, right? And that's it. So you have all the products in line there. You have vSAN, you have NSX, you have, vSphere and ESX and ESXi and all the major components that go in the data center, vRealize, I don't know if vRealize is actually in that one or not, but most of the logical things that you would have are now in this organization. Then you have end user computing, right? That's logical. We have AirWatch. We have all the end user Horizon products, right? And that's actually logical too. So he organized that. And then he basically said, and now we have applications anywhere, modern apps, right? And those apps need to run across all these different platforms and all these different places. So we have that. So I think the way he's focused things, I'm really impressed with what Raghu is doing inside the company, right? And I know a lot of that doesn't get announced publicly, and I don't know how much I'm even allowed to say, but I think a lot of that is fairly neutral kind of news with regards to what Raghu's doing. Now, the fact that the current CTO, resigned, right? And now Raghu has gotten to choose the next CTO, and he chose Kit Colbert. And Matt, do you know the name of the previous CTO?
Fidelma Russo, I believe, who came over from Iron Mountain, and she was with us for about 1.5 years.
Right. And I don't think she was in the CTO position. I think she was relatively new in the CTO position.
I believe she was a GM and senior VP for cloud services, and then was announced over to the CTO role. And then there was a change in direction with it, or obviously that Raghu stepping into the CEO role, and then Kit now stepping up to fill the CTO shoes.
And if I look at that position selection that Raghu has done, it's like, how could you find somebody better that understands our product, that has worked with customers throughout the years, and not just work with customers, but like did heavy lifting in the trenches too, right? Like how many shows has he been on here, right? Like I think 1, 2, 3, at least 4 different podcasts he's been on, with us, right?
And the last podcast that he was on, 533, we talked a little bit about his career, right? He started, this is a gentleman that has 18 years of experience with the organization, I believe. And starting out as an intern and working through various different BUs under multiple tenures of senior leadership, and that has really excelled and grown, but also has the engineering chops to understand the core fundamentals of where we are and where we're headed. And most certainly, as we've talked about this, play to SaaS, with his most recent experience being the CTO of the VMware Cloud BU, that this plays well into that. And we talk about all of the CTO roles and whatnot, and so I think it's important to note that there is, for each BU, I believe there is their own CTO, and then there is an overall organizational leadership CTO. That sort of, let's call it the grand poobah in chief, the true chief technologist, that then oversees, or all of these individual CTOs then roll up to, so that there is the unified technology vision for VMware as a whole. And that is the role that Kit is now moving into.
Yeah, this just seems so strong for me. And Corey, I know that Kit has actually engaged with the experts along the journey as well, right? He's actually been a community leader, kind of almost should be getting a vExpert award himself.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Kit is just, like everybody knows, he's just a big name at VMware. Not like you said, 18 years. I agree, Eric. Kit couldn't have picked a better person to put in that position. I'm really happy to see what Raghu's doing.
Yeah, I think that to Matt, to your point, he actually wrote code on on vSphere and vMotion.
On vMotion, core vMotion, I believe he was an engineering lead on, or a PM, and then also storage vMotion. He had a key integral role into getting that released. So his technical creds with the organization, with it. It's developer focused, and we're a software company as a whole, and to have someone that understands and respects and what goes into that type of development work, and is able to relate to our core engineering base is key.
Right. So to understand where he's been, he was an engineer. He was one of the principal engineers that wrote the vMotion code back in the day, maybe in 2006, 7, 6, I think it was 5 or 6. So here a long time, great credentials. I want to say he's out of Stanford, but I don't really remember which university, but it was a top university. I think Stanford. Worked with Mendel, right? I think he interned. Yeah, he interned at VMware here. Then came in, writing code, interned, built this up, came here, worked in the trenches, then eventually worked up into management, managed the team. Then he worked in his first CTO gig, I think, was he became the CTO of end user computing. Right. So back when we hadn't bought AirWatch yet, but we were making progress when we were battling against Zen, not Zen. No, who's the guy out of Atlanta that does the Citrix, right? So we were battling Citrix for the desktop space, and he was the CTO there. Then he became the CTO.
He would have been the fields, or I believe it was either the field CTO or just general CTO when Sanjay was heading up that BU. So his experience with Sanjay, when Sanjay was in charge
GM.
of the EUC, the GM for EUC. Kit would have been his CTO during that tenure.
During some amount of that time. Then Kit, when we got into modern apps, or it wasn't really called modern apps back then, I think it was just Kubernetes, or even before Kubernetes, where there was really Google and Git and everybody building that together. He came in, and we did the Fusion OS, right? So we did our microkernel, which it wasn't Fusion. What is the
Photon? Yeah, Photon OS.
Yeah, so Kit took over in the modern apps days when Photon showed up, and he worked with us, and he came on podcasts and talked about where we were going with regards to Kubernetes and Photon and the whole modern apps push. So he was CTO for modern apps for a while. And then after CTO of modern apps, then he went over, became CTO of cloud, right? And the cloud push. So, understanding all these aspects, and part of the CTO is to talk to customers, right? And Kit obviously has done probably 1,000 presentations over the course of his career, talking to customers, coming on podcasts. He did code sessions, right? Where he came and did live VMware code sessions. So Kripa worked with him, right? And he was always nice enough, even though he was a CTO, to drop what he was doing and understood that it was only an hour out of his time to get on a, do a podcast or do a presentation. And he actually also then came to keynote at VMware Code to talk about modern apps, right? So he did the first day, and then Pat Gelsinger did the second day, right? So again, always willing, understood how customers were using VMware products, right up from vRealize automation management. Really understands everything. And for me, it feels like when our previous CTO went off to be a VC, Steve Herod. When Steve Herod left the company, I felt like we lost this professional cheerleader guy that understood how we used our products, right? And Steve Herod had worked on vMotion. He was I think the manager of Kit that hired Kit on as an intern when they were doing that project. Steve Herod was the manager. I know because I interviewed with Steve Herod back when I came in 2006, and Steve Herod was still running the vSphere engineering team. So had a good interview with him. Steve left, and then Kit came in right about when I came in. There was, of that nature. I think he's maybe 10, 12 years, 15 years younger than me, but came in and then started his career and worked his way up under Steve Herod. And then, Steve Herod became our CTO. And then eventually that's where I think Kit became CTO. So I feel like this wasn't just going out and reaching out to another industry name and bringing that industry name like Fidelma, right? Where they didn't put in 15 years of hard work in the trenches to get to the point where now you have this career. And I guess I understand why you go outside the trenches to go get people. I've never been a big fan of that. I believe in, giving people that worked in a lot of years hard at levels the opportunity to take control. And I feel that they do a better job long term because they really do understand where the business is going. So my take is that it's just really neat that we have a Steve Herod replacement, somebody internal that's worked on some of these products. And if you look at it, this is a mirror image of Raghu, right? Raghu has done the same thing, right? Like, I really like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems to be a theme with Raghu's new leadership of tenure, right?
Tenure,
or some within the organization that's had the experience across multiple BUs and a significant length of experience at those particular roles, right? Where a clear progression to show and to gain that experience of how each of these BUs operate, the needs of those individual customers within the BUs, and the needs of the BU itself, and how they all roll up and then commingle together to set what is now a long-term strategy.
Yeah. And interesting, Kit also brings this notion of the app anywhere. It's odd because I get stuck with vSphere and I get stuck with compute nodes and 4RU machines and speeds and feeds of the the hardware, because that's what I like, right? I like building systems. I've always liked building systems ever since I built systems back in the 80s. And so we tend to get stuck there, and even if it's vSphere and software and deploying VMs and managing VMs, where I saw Kit, rise above this, right? And actually look at the application, right? Because the reality is it is the application. It is not the hardware. It is not the storage. It's not the network. It's the application, what the application needs.
It's always been the application. The OS is a means to the application, right?
No. It's the OS. I just want the OS. I stay stuck down it. It's like I can't get above that, right? Like I like the hardware, I like the operating system, I like the device drivers, I like building the framework, and then there it is. Oh, somebody has to run an app.
Sometimes, to your point, Eric, it's sometimes as technologists we get so involved in the OS or the hypervisor or whatnot, and we forget about this whole other world of the primary use case of what these devices and compute nodes are actually used, and it's the apps, right? Of why we're doing and why we're delivering the services and innovation that we are. And it is the apps. It's not the OS. It's just,
Yep,
and if the
100%.
OS can be more transparent to the user and provide a more seamless experience, so be it.
Yeah, and that's where Kit was able to rise above. And when he was doing his talks, even on this podcast, wherever, he would always say that there's these levels, and he did a great career, discussion on podcast number 533 on your IT. He funded that IT administrator career book that they wrote, right, and published, and came on the podcast. He was like doing the Johnny Carson talk show circuit, right? He was coming on everywhere he could to talk about IT practitioners and their career and how their career has to climb up into the app space, right? And he was like, you can stay at these levels, it's fine, but then where does your career go if you want to keep that? You have to come up into the app space and start managing what the application needs, from security to network to that. So it was kind of an app centric viewpoint of, here's the app and what does the app need, and how does VMware provide what the app needs, versus here's the infrastructure and here's how to set up your infrastructure using VMware products. It's just a totally different way to look at it.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, he understands, and I mean, that wasn't at that point. The book had been out for a significant period of time.
Yeah,
and he had been preaching. This wasn't a news story, right?
Yeah, right.
He got it very early on that this is going to be, the next modern iteration of where we're headed is this OS agnostic, device agnostic, application focused delivery service, where we now need to be focused on how the app is interacting with the provider or the service that we're laying down. And that could be everything from storage to compute to networking, and then security all bundled in, but all done in such a way where it's now not these abstractions that we have within traditional IT shops of you're dealing with security, and then the network team to do provisioning, and then the OS guys that normally lay down a SCCM package, right? It's all, and that just gets in the way of IT bloat. And then when you get your own engineering firms that just say, oh, this is just too hard to deploy, we're going to come up with something to make it all easier. So yeah, it's a fundamental shift. And for those admins that are out there that want to make that next progression in their career, he has been preaching it for quite some time, that we need to look at what is it that we can do as IT practitioners to make the consumption of the services that we deliver easier to the ultimate end users, which are developers and the knowledge workers that are out there in the space that are actually interacting with the apps at the endpoint.
The other thing that he does really well is that he does talk to CIOs, right, in companies, and he brings their perspective as well. And the CIOs are telling him that, yeah, we're going to have at least 2 different cloud vendors, right? We don't want to be locked into one. So, and here's our problems that we have. And if you listen to him now, he talks about the problems that people are trying to solve when it goes into multiple cloud vendors, right? He talks about the security and, how CIOs are telling him what problems they're faced with, right? And then he gets to work with engineering to drive what we're building in order to solve those problems, to really hit not only at our level but way up at the top, right, and down from a CIO that can go, yeah, we like VMware's solution here. We're gonna hang with that. Right? So it's actually interesting to watch Kit grow again, because he grows beyond what I get fixated on, right? And is able to then talk to CIOs and bring that message back to the engineers and guys like me who are, just working a day-to-day space, in my own head. So it's good to have him there.
And as I've looked at his LinkedIn profile, unfortunately for those Stanford grads out there, he is a Brown University man.
Brown, I
so
knew
Brown is where his undergrad is from.
Yeah, so I went to Stanford for a while, and I'll just say he's from Stanford. How's that? I like that better.
Fair enough.
hijack who he is and what he actually knows, right? It's like, but yes, sharp guy too, articulate. I remember Steve Herod. We brought Steve Herod in the early days, like in 2007, to have him film some jokester stuff, right? You know, we did a little show inside of, you know, at Palo Alto some building. We made a little studio, and then I think we had Julie Nelson and some other people originally from the social team, and we recorded Steve Herod. And Steve Herod, we needed him to go through like a 2-page dialogue, right? You know, here's all the things you got to say. And back then we didn't have teleprompters or anything. We made a studio out of a conference room, and Steve Harris sat back and looked at it, and it's all right. I got this right. And he did a perfect monologue for like 3 minutes, just covering all the bullet points that were in that, you know, almost word for word what he just read once. Right. And that's when you realize, okay, this guy, Steve Herod did go to Stanford, right? And so Kid Colbert goes to Brown, right? Still Ivy League kind of school. So you realize that they must have been wicked smart to go there, and that they're wicked smart, and their brain can read a 3-page, you know, and then just do it word for word. Like it's incredible how smart they are.
I as a practitioner that's been playing with virtualization technology back to the GSX days, hence the Twitter tag, I have a good fundamental grasp of how the architecture works and how the bits move to where they need to. But to write the code and to execute on it and make it reliable and enterprise scalable, I wouldn't know the first part of where to start. It's a different level of knowledge of the product. It's an entirely separate thing. So here's a gentleman that can not only take and did, right? I mean, he was responsible for literally laying down the code and being the PM for a core fundamental part of VMware's growth and marketplace and market share. But then also to go over and to do, you know, whiteboard presentations and CIO dialogues and public presentations and podcasts and vlogs and whatnot. It takes a very unique individual to have all of those skill sets, and Kit has that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very rare breed. That's for sure.
And like has charisma too, so that when you listen to him, you just want to sit there and listen to him.
He's captivating. He's absolutely captivating, right? He can deliver. It's not like this bland, mild monologue. He's an engaging presenter.
Yeah, absolutely. Just want to watch.
There's something to be said for that.
And you feel good after you've listened to him. You're like, wow, that was fun. I enjoyed that. Right? It's like it's watching a Taylor Swift concert or whatever your favorite artist is, right? You're happy that you've listened to them. Okay. Taylor Swift is not my favorite, but I just say that by the time
that's going to turn into a meme, Eric. Yeah, we're going to have to run with that one.
All right. So you want to hear we'll switch gears here a little bit. You want to hear what we want to do for a Kit Colbert social media campaign?
Yeah.
We're gonna do a social media campaign that says Kit Colbert, the most interesting man, right? Like the interesting man. What is it? And then let me see if I got one that we've been brainstorming on. Here we go. Let's see. So Kit Colbert. Oh my gosh, where is it? Okay, Kit Colbert.
Here, while you're looking for that,
wait. Don't cut me off.
Go ahead.
Silence in a podcast is perfectly fine, right? Especially when we're going slow here. So podcast. The Del Secchi one, the most interesting man. That theme. What is it? Most interesting man. The beer one where he goes, and he holds up and he goes, Del Secchi's most. You guys don't know that one? Are you guys crazy?
No, I know it. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
We want to do Kit Colbert, right? And then he always has a tagline. I don't always blah, 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 but when I do, I drink Del Secchi's, right? So I don't always run in the cloud, but when I do, I use vSphere. So we want him to do that. And then you have a bunch of catchphrases that Kit Colbert, he tweets in binary when he's on vacation. Like, make him the most interesting tech guys. His blender runs in a VM on a Raspberry Pi. You're not feeling it. All right. Well, there you go.
I liked the first two. Yeah.
Right. Well, the thing is, I don't always run. That's the catchphrase that he does at the end when he holds up his Dos Equis. He goes, I don't always run in the cloud, but when I do, I use vSphere.
Yeah.
The Seki guy had a similar thing. I don't always blah blah blah, but when I do, I think Dos Equis. Right. So anyway, Kit Colbert is that kind of guy, right? We could make a famous video series out of the guy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a god. All right, with that, let's talk. I have a spreadsheet of super cool presentations. I'm going to share it. I'm going to let Matt and you talk a little bit about. We'll just go through them and see what you guys think. Let me see. This is, again, I have to. So, Corey, if you have something to share while I share the spreadsheet, you go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to mention Kit has 2 sessions at VMworld, right? And they're underneath the general and tech passes, breakout sessions. First one is how vSphere is redefining infrastructure for running apps in the multi-cloud era. And that's session MCL 2500. And the second one is the future of local and distributed cloud with VMware Cloud on Dell EMC, and that is MCL 2735.
All right, there you go. All right, can you guys see this spreadsheet, or did I not hit share?
Can't see it.
I did not.
I don't see anything as of yet.
Allow. Wait. There we go. Screen 2. Allow. And there we go. Can you see it now?
Sure can.
All right. So first one on the list is Niels Haggart. Project Monterey. This is actually the #1 shared session so far in social media. 10 things to know about Project Monterey, right? And he covers, curious about how Project Monterey runs on SmartNICs. So I know we've talked about SmartNICs last year for VMworld, and we haven't really talked anything about it. But apparently, when we release this out in the fabric, it has picked up more clicks than anything else. So Project Monterey, look for this session. It is, don't know if we have this MCL 1833. So MCL 1833. And if you're watching the social media, you should see Niels and this tweet that's going out that we're promoting, which actually lists the 3 things that you should take away from this session. You'll learn 10 things on how to accelerate your business. Find out about how Project Monterey helps to increase performance, security, manageability, and offloading to a DPU. So, Matt, what is a DPU?
A data processing unit.
Oh,
I'm assuming there that we're looking at, again, the idea that we're doing an embedded processing and offloading certain functions to ARM processors that are going to be on these SmartNICs. So
yes.
Traditional functions that would be normally done through core CPU processing will now be done out on the edge as it relates to what I would assume to be networking and security. We've announced this, I believe, last year, Project Monterey at VMworld, and this will be, the next iteration and probably where the project is headed. Whether that will continue to stay as a project or be formally incorporated with a product announcement has yet to be seen, but I'm sure that Niels will cover that in his session. Certainly, definitely, you could see where this is going as a technology as a whole. Definitely can understand the interest in the session, and Niels always a great presenter to have.
Right. All right. So that's one, and he's got a second one: automate and improve day 2 operations. So again, another one.
VLCM, sure.
Yep. MCL 1274. So a couple of good ones to promote. Then there's obviously William Lamb, right? So we're promoting 2 sessions from William Lamb: Op Modernization Deep Dive with VMware Cloud on AWS and VMware Tanzu. So Kubernetes Tanzu on AWS.
Right. And for those listening along, that's MCL 2290.
Yep. Then unleashing the power of event-driven automation. So this is back to my guess would be William's, traditional core skill set that he did for so many years, which is just all about automation and automation topics in general. So it's fun to see him doing one of these as well. Right.
Yeah, this is more along the lines of what we can do with the Event Broker appliance. I know that there has been some integrations with the EBA with Horizon, what we can do as far as event alert and notifications on automations and whatnot that are coming out of that. William has gave some examples of that out on his blog. Interested to see what's coming out of this session, which is VI 2622. VI 2622.
And we got 20 of these, folks, and I think we have gone through 4 so far. So we'll just kind of march through them here. Brian Madden has 2. If you don't know Brian, he's also just a famous guy.
Yeah, these are the ones that I had brought up before. This is interesting. So this looks like sessions 9, 10, 11, and 12. The 3 of Brian's right in a row. With the future of the VDI admin, with the community roundtable that I had mentioned. The desktop migration story with the admins moved over from Citrix to Horizon, and then his session with Carl Webster and his blog series, which is moving up from Carl's Horizon test labs from 7.12 up to 8. Those sessions all starting in EUS 2461, 2462, and 2460.
And then we have one of our favorites. Now, you're noticing a lot of these guys are big in social as well. So if you want to, and we did not recommend these. These are the sessions that VMworld team wanted us to highlight. So they even see these people as key people, which are, a lot of them are very active in the social channels and vExpert. So Martin Smith, we've had him on several times. He helps us build the vExpert app, and he's got a couple as well, right?
Yes, a guide to application migration nirvana, session on MCL 1264 about application migration and using the tools of Verny and VRO and HCX and how those tools all integrate together to make the process a little bit more seamless. And then he also has an additional session that's right behind. As far as popularity, still towards the top of the list, which is automating problem as a resolution on modern networks. That's session NET 2160. Again, about probably taking that data from Verny and figuring out what we can do to automate problem resolution based on alert monitoring.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are showcasing sessions that will have value props. So each one of these in social, we will absolutely highlight what value prop Martin thinks you should get from this session, so that once you register for it, you should be able to see what value props we see. And let's see if I can. Nope, I can't. It won't let me showcase this. So we'll move on. I was going to show you the value props for Martin's automated problem resolution, but it will not open. So we'll move on. Raymond DeJong, simplify network consumption. A lot of networking sessions here that we're highlighting, at least 3 or 4 networking sessions. I think they went through and they're highlighting a handful of sessions for each track. So I don't know if these are all stack ranked by absolute popularity or whether they're covering different topics along the way. So Raymond DeJong, apps, simplify the network consumption, automation for day 1 and day 2 operations, NET 2185. Keith Lee. Matt, do you know what Keith Lee's doing here?
So Keith Lee's doing a session on managing Kubernetes via TMC across multiple clouds. This is session APP 1187. So how we can use Tanzu Mission Control to manage multiple Kubernetes instances, whether that be across the hyperscalers or a combination of a hyperscaler and an on-premises deployment.
The next one we have on the list, and we're at number 17 here, and I think we go up to 20, is Eric Shanks. We heard the video of Eric Shanks talk about his question and answer session with Tom Schweller. So that one should be a good one. They're Tanzu experts. We've had them on the podcast before. Great couple of guys. Chris McCain, Enterprise Multi-Cloud Security. I don't know much about that. I don't know if you know much either, Matt, but
Chris McCain of NSX fame and multiple VMUG presenter and VMUG UserCon presenter. Those that are in attendance and VMUG members will know the Chris McCain name. I'm sure that this will be of how the NSX play is now carrying over to part of app modernization and containerization, and how we are now securing those workloads. And I see Bob Planker's out there. He has a couple of sessions as well for ransomware resistance and recovery with vSphere security, and then security best practices. Those are sessions starting in SEC 1385 and SEC 1388. Again, so security best practices and ransomware resistance and recovery. I'm sure that he will get into what we're doing with TPM and just generalized security best practices from the field.
So we have invited
Bob. We've had Bob on the podcast. Bob's been on here and always a great source of security information for the platform.
All right. And then the last few we've got, and Bob is going to join us, I think, in the next week or two to talk about it. So we've invited him back just to hear our friendly guy. He always gets like 5,000 downloads every week when we do a podcast with Bob. So it's always fun to have him on just to make our numbers look good. Yeah, there you go. Manoob Y Edge is the next evolution of cloud. I don't know how to say Manoob's last name. Minhazudin. Manoob Cloud Edge 2593. A little bit of edge networking should be interesting. Sumit Dewana, accelerating innovation strategies for winning across clouds and apps. So GEN 3103. Not sure. I think it's a multi-cloud one, right? And finally, we even threw Carol Carpenter in here, our new CMO. I think that's a plant, but she's actually a really interesting speaker. So to give some points out to Carol Carpenter, she did some really great presentations when she worked at Google talking about technology. So she is a budding technologist, or a pretty serious technologist when it comes to marketing. So it'll be interesting to hear what she has to say around her vision going forward with VMware, getting into multi-cloud and where we're actually going. So what she's excited about. And she is a geeky technologist. So don't let the CMO title fool you. She is a technologist, maybe not in data center operations, but she will be an interesting session to listen to, right? So because
Certainly.
she is a super good technologist, and it'll be interesting to see how she turns that into technology around marketing and VMware. So that'll be good. The last two here, Arpan Shah, migrate and modernize. You need to, let's see, migrate and modernize with cloud solutions from Microsoft Azure and VMware. So we hear lots about AWS, but we actually get to hear now about Azure and what we're doing with Azure there. So MCL 3077S. I don't know what the S means. I wonder if that's a vendor one or not. Don't know. And then finally, last but not least, Patrick Verhoeven and Simon Hansford, a return of the sovereign cloud, protecting data and building a digital economy. Don't know what that's going to be about. Matt, what's your interpretation of that last one?
Well, I would think that is, we talk so much about the move to, the hyperscalers and a hyperscaler native platform. But then what is the cost of once we have that application that is now natively refactored to one of the hyperscalers, and we choose to move to another provider, what's the cost of now refactoring to the next native application? And I think a little bit of what's the cost of there's this push of cloud native, but then there is also the idea of what is the cost of maybe we need to bring that back on prem. We've talked about before of sometimes through M&A where we have individuals that have now moved up to one of the hyperscalers, and those hyperscalers are selling a competitive product against the organization that has moved their data there, and they want to now instead of ingress into the crowd, they want to egress out. So what's that cost, and what can our technology, as far as running this all, is a native containerized workload, but providing that mobility between on-prem and all of the hyperscalers in a somewhat seamless fashion, rather than needing to refactor these applications. What advantages does that bring to the enterprise?
Nice. Yep, I agree. So that's MCL 1092. And that completes our top 20 list. I think we had more than 20 just because we doubled up on some authors. Some authors had two sessions, but those are the top 20. We're going to be promoting them over the course of the days to come because we think they're some of the great ones, and there's opportunity to engage. We might be giving away some free giveaways over the course of the 2-day event if you do attend some of these sessions. And if you see us tweeting about it, you'll notice that it's a picture of the person with this session and some checkmark bullets that you're supposed to take away. Feel free to give us a retweet. Corey Romero, we're at the top of the hour. I know we have places to be, so I will give you the last word. Corey, thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Any last words other than new barbecue report? We gonna do a barbecue report?
Wow, I think we should have a grilling report. So, Seth, because we talked about the difference between barbecuing and grilling, and so we think that possibly Matt is a grill master, and we hear that he grills quite a lot. So, Matt, what's your favorite grilling technique with that gas grill of yours?
I'm not going to step on this one. I'm just going to. That there's no good answer here. I just know that I enjoy the grill that I have. It happens to be fired by natural gas, not propane or charcoal or wood pellets or any of those high end things that you professional barbecuers use. I just know that it starts and it runs and
is it a double stack?
No, it's not an outdoor oven, Corey, as much as you want it to be.
Matt, you already heard the click when you stepped on the landmine. You're not going to get off of it without it exploding.
No, I forgot to wear my flak jacket today. So
yep. I don't really have any other grilling stories today, and we do not have Tony Foster with us. So I guess we'll just end with, there is no right or wrong in raising children or doing your own barbecue or grilling. So there just is no right or wrong. As long as you're doing it, it's a perfect thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Except when it comes to Matt, then,
For those of you that are out there that have natural gas grills, well, I'm proud to be a member. But if you have to go the other direction and feel that the need for the Traeger and the time and all of that expense to do the natural barbecue thing, but if that's someone's prerogative, by all means.
I think you should definitely bring us some decent recipes that you've made that turned out perfectly great, right? Like, you could tell us like how you slit the hot dog in half and then spread it out on the little metal thing.
I absolutely could. It's an art. It's an absolute art to split the hot dog and not cut your hand.
That's right.
Cutting the lid off the can of beans and setting it in there.
Yes. You have to be really careful so that you don't, you slice your thumb on the edge of the can, and then there's blood everywhere, and it turns into this hazmat scene. I mean, it can just get really, really ugly when you need to cook that can of beans out on your grill.
The best part of this, Matt, is that you play along with it, and
Corey, I've
generally
already stepped on the
appreciate
landmine.
humor.
I've
Yes.
stepped on the landmine. I know that there's no good end to it, so you might as well just enjoy it while you can.
Just stand there.
Might as well just cut your own leg off and leave it there.
Yeah. Yep, I'm
right,
not dead
guys.
yet.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for being good sports. We're sorry that our guest wandered away today. The guest that we were going to have is Skyline. They're going to come back after VMworld because they got some big announcements they want to do. So we thought we would just talk about Kit and talk about the sessions. Thanks for being here. We'll be back again next week. Until then, everybody go get some barbecue and enjoy yourself and have a great week.
Thanks. See ya.